Hey, welcome back. Today I'm gonna be sharing with you some things that I picked up or learned from mistakes that I've made in writing my books. When I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I've spoken about that so many times, but for the information on YouTube and just doing a lot of research, I was able to find out and learn some things, some of which I learned by trial and error, just figuring it out and learning that it was wrong and just seeing, things just didn't work out. So I'm going to share with you some quick things to look out for when you're writing your books. And one of the first things that I would say is, and I've said it in my previous videos, it is important to know your audience. It's important to know who you're writing for. It's important to know who is going to be reading the books. And so we have to be mindful of our readers as well as our listeners. Children's attention span is not very long. And so you want to make sure that the readers are not reading these books and feeling as if it's so painful because, one, the language is not conducive to the children that are supposed to be listening to the story, or the story is so long that the children become disengaged, and so that's painful for a reader, whether it's a parent or somebody's reading this story in the library. So ensure that when you're writing your book, you establish that in the beginning. I know I've said it before and people might brush over it, but it is so important to know who your readers are and who the book is for. The next thing is that when you're choosing your story, ensure that it's not so long and drawn out and you're all over the place with your content, because again it comes back to the attention span of the children. You want to make sure that your story is concise enough for them to get to the point quick enough, but not too quick where they're like, was something else coming? So you have to pace yourself in that story. Have your happy ending, yes, or whatever it is, however it is that you want your book, but just ensure that you pace yourself as a writer. And when you have your beta testers read your book, listen for those things too, because you may need to tighten back your story after. The other thing I've learned is that the story in your head may not necessarily be the best story for the children that you're writing for. And so you have to be mindful of that as well. So write your story, have it edited, but also get some children, get your children, find your neighbor's children. Have somebody in that age group read your story when it's done, and listen for the reaction and observe the reaction of those children, because children will tell you the truth. They will, for sure. So observe those reactions and see if it makes sense. They will be honest and abrupt, and you will know from there if if you need some tweaking. The other thing that's important is your illustration. If you're doing books, children's books, your illustration is so very important. It's important that you find the right person who can execute on your vision of how your characters should look and how to get your story across. Because again, for picture books and children's books, the story doesn't necessarily, the words of the story is not necessarily all that is there to tell the story. Your story is told by the pictures as well. So children look at these pictures and they can learn from them. I know one of the learning techniques that my children learned was actually to use the pictures to help them identify words that they're not able to identify. So they can understand the story by looking at the pictures. So you want to ensure that your illustrations are done properly, that they represent what you want. And again, as a Black author, I have to choose illustrators and graphic designers that understand how to depict children who are of my background, right? Not everybody knows how to draw a black child, and that's just a fact. So before you hire an illustrator, ensure that you get that person to do a draft for you, and so that you more than likely you're gonna have to pay for that draft. It's probably $20 again if you use Fiverr or Upwork, but it's best that you spend that money to get it right in the first place. You don't want to at some point having to change your cover and stuff like that. I had that for one of my books, and it's so painful to know that I had to do that. Also, once you get your illustrations done, as I said, once you get your proofs done as well, so you would have gotten your book sent to your publisher and you get your proofs, again, have a child look at that and they will tell you the honest truth if the book looks good or not, and then you can decide from there. The other thing that should have preceded all of this is to make sure that you have a budget. Have a budget for your books, because even though you're self-publishing, you're not doing everything by yourself, right? You need people who are skilled in certain areas to help you. You need your illustrators, you need your formatters, you need your editors, right? And if you're gonna pay to have your book published, you need your publishers. You can always use Amazon, it's free, but these are the things that you have to consider, right? So let's just recap things to consider when you're about to self-publish. 1, have a budget, create a budget for it, research that budget, what it's gonna cost. Ensure that you focus on identifying who your audience is, who your readers are, and create your story to match that demographic. Hire good illustrators who understand the story, an illustrator who gets your point, your vision, an illustrator who's capable of creating the characters that are unique to you or to your demographic, and have beta readers, right? Have children read your proofs, your drafts, and give their opinion, and listen to that. Not only listen, but observe their reactions. If you see they're kind of like, that kind of thing, you can read their body language to say whether you need to tighten up on certain areas. So for those are some quick things that I learned going in. You are going to have to spend money to get your book published. A lot of people do it by themselves, but if you're good at graphic design, if you're good at formatting, if you're good at editing, then I would say go right ahead. But I would just caution you to ensure that even though your book is being self-published, you still want it to have a professional look. And so these are the things that you have to consider when you're thinking about putting your book and writing your book and self-publishing your book. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was clear. Let me know in the comments if you need any help or you need any further clarity. And as usual, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for joining me.